And at 10, it's real, okay? A lot of people couldn't tell if I was being serious or not in the shorts, okay? And I guarantee you that this is actually real. This isn't something I'm making up, it's not a hoax, it's actually a thing. Freddy Fazbear's Pizza is real, or well, is going to be. Kind of. Because of the company that made Mr. Beast Burger possible, called Virtual Dining Concepts, they did announce that they partnered with Scott Cawthon to take the first ever fictional video game setting and turn it into a real-life delivery restaurant, okay? Emphasis on the delivery part on that, however, because I cannot stress this enough, there is no actual location that you can walk into. I'm going to be saying this a lot in this video, okay? Because seemingly no matter how many times I say it, nobody gets it. There is no actual location, okay? I leave a pinned comment on the short and nobody reads it. People even replied to that comment that said there was no physical location, asking where it was going to be built. Guys, it's really happening, okay? You'll be able to order it, but you can only order it online through food delivery apps, just like how they handle Mr. Beast Burger, okay? I just hope that this stuff is actually seasoned, okay? I may be white, but I do have taste buds. And at 9, Scott Cawthon. Apparently a lot of people think that after Scott retired, Steel Wool ended up getting the copyright to FNAF, but this couldn't be further from the truth. As you can see on the announcement, as well as any image of the logo for this delivery service, it does maintain that FNAF and all of its components are still under the copyright of Scott Cawthon. Virtual Dining Concepts website even says that it partnered with Scott and not anybody else in order to make this delivery service come to life. So yeah, I mean there's not much else to say about this, okay, but Scott is the only person on the FNAF side, at least as far as we know currently, that is involved in the process. Mr. Beast isn't involved, Steel Wool seemingly isn't involved since they haven't mentioned it at all, since they only make money off Security Breach and Help Wanted. So yeah, okay, Scott is still the copyright owner and owner of the series, and I'm pretty sure that even for the next part of the series it will remain that way. He may not be involved that much, but whoever the series is handed off to won't have the copyright or the ownership. It will just be stuff that is pre-approved by Scott. And at 8, Twitter. There isn't really a lot of new information since we last updated you in the previous short on the subject, the second one, not the first one. However, the restaurant still have an official Twitter account known as @FFazbear's Pizza, and based on their account details, they've actually been planning this since January of last year at least, considering that that's when the account joined. You can also sign up for email and text reminders on their website, freddyfazbearspizza.com, and they've been responding to quite a few people on Twitter, but not me, unfortunately. It's kind of annoying, really. But they also haven't sent out any text reminders since the last video as well. Like, I signed up for text reminders, haven't gotten one, which really makes me believe that this was only meant to kind of course correct since the announcement came early thanks to the tweet that had the leak that blew up. Okay? Virtual Dining Concepts really needed to make sure that their website didn't have the information about upcoming projects available for just anyone to see, especially when the fanbase surrounding the delivery service is as intense as this one. This may have sprung up thanks to people searching for ARG clues in the wake of MatPat's last FNAF theory video about the Fazbear Frights books before he released his Please Stop video, which in my mind is the most likely scenario of how this was found, but since the account hasn't tweeted in a week now, I'm pretty sure it was just made public so that they might as well like lean into the fact that we already knew about it, so yeah. And at 7, menu. We don't currently have a proper menu for the Fazbear service yet, but currently what we know is that according to Virtual Dining Concepts website, quote, the easy to execute menu features craveable pizza rolls with a unique twist and game tie-ins that new and current fans will want to order over and over again. Now, whether the unique twist is death or a special topping is one thing, however I'm pretty sure that we can all guess they'll also be serving pizza with a variety of customizable topping, especially according to their Twitter, since they did ask what our favorite pizza topping was in a tweet. I'm disappointed that there weren't more favorite pizza place jokes in there in those replies. However, based on the comments on our first short on the subject, there are going to be some scarier replies to that tweet as well, because it's Twitter. Luckily, I don't think they'll be adding fingers to the meat add-ons. We can also guess that they'll be serving similar stuff to like a normal Chuck E. Cheese or a pizza place, so soda, chicken as well, because Chica, I'm guessing, mini brownies, and probably a small variety of desserts. They may even have cake, because it's supposed to be a place you can go for your birthday, which I think would make the most sense, but only if the kitchen that ends up taking on this additional menu would also normally make cake. And at 6, no relation. XBlue is a YouTube group that has been working on making multiple FNAF locations real. They've done FNAF 4 and recently seemingly completed a recreation of FNAF 1, despite their channel description saying in progress. progress, but their videos saying that it's done. So maybe they're adding the finishing touches right now. The YouTube channel, to my knowledge, has no affiliation with virtual dining concepts or Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Delivery. However, their videos are incredibly cool and interesting, so if you want to see their rendition of a real FNAF, go check them out on YouTube, okay? I'm sure that if you're this deep into the FNAF algorithm, you've already seen it, but I might as well point you in their direction anyway, okay? Go subscribe to them. They're pretty cool. However, they do not have any relation to virtual dining concepts or this delivery service as far as I know, okay? There also is no real location for this delivery service to operate from, again, so their videos have nothing to do with this announcement. Honestly, the announcement seems like it was rushed, again, because we ended up finding out thanks to the website having the information, then everyone started tweeting about it. But we were like, actually, we were 2 days late to the party on that short. By the way, that was a whole other thing that was 2 days before, and I was like, oh, we should probably release a short. And besides, if they were affiliated, wouldn't they have made the FNAF 1 location first instead of second after FNAF 4? Or wouldn't they just have not posted it on YouTube because, you know, NDAs, legal stuff, Scott loving the element of surprise? Yeah, I'd think so too. Halfway through into number 5, Twitter hoax. The Twitter account of Diamond Zia on June 27, 2020 tweeted out 3 photos with the line of FNAF will be real in 48 hours. These pictures were of news articles. One from the USA Today titled 5 children have gone missing inside Chuck E. Cheese. Parents report smells coming ... One from the Associated Press called post-hour worker at Chuck E. Cheese reported dead at 27. And a final one from Something News titled night shift workers at Chuck E. Cheese's claim strange movements from animatronics during post hours. However, this title had animatronics spelt incorrectly. It said animatronics. Everyone was freaking out at these pictures of the articles, okay, particularly the first one, and they were shared all over the internet, okay? People were losing their minds, especially because this was around the time where Chuck E. Cheese was closing. However, people didn't realize that these were fake, okay? How are they fake, you ask? Simple source code editing. Well, okay, it's simple to me because I know how to do it, but if you don't know, it may seem complicated. But in reality, you can change what anything says on any website, but it will only change for you until you reload the page by editing the source code. All you need to do is like find the aspect that you're looking for after you right click and click inspect. Yeah, like especially on Google Chrome, it's easy. Once you do that, like once you find the aspect, you can change it to whatever you want. You can change pictures, you can change titles, you can do whatever. So whoever made the original image had found an article potentially already about Chuck E. Cheese closing from USA Today and then changed the title to 5 children go missing. And the same thing with the other articles. Hence why there were only images of the articles and not the actual links, okay? It was a hoax that blew up and people actually believed it, and some still do, and something that's related to this restaurant, but it's not, okay? That was all fake, and plus that was 2 years ago, alright? There's no relation between those at all. In at 4, no animatronics. Guys, I cannot stress this enough, there is no actual location, meaning that there won't be any animatronics that you can meet, unless your Uber Eats driver wants to go the extra mile and for some reason has a spare FNAF costume laying in his trunk or in his backpack. I don't really think it's gonna happen, and you know what, if they do have a spare one, that's gonna be questionable. Obviously things can change, like they may have a uniform or something to give to the drivers, but I can pretty much guarantee that that's not going to happen. Yeah, especially not like that, okay? If Mr. Beast even doesn't do that with Mr. Beast Burger, and it's Mr. Beast, I don't think that they're gonna be doing it for anyone else, okay? Sorry guys, but you won't be meeting any actual animatronics unless some seriously hardcore drivers go all out, or there's some secret ARG element that Scott plans on including that we have no idea about, okay? But also, that's not me saying that there is an ARG. I don't fully believe that there is, but the appearance of a Freddy Fazbear's delivery service after the community had been told that no non-official business would participate is very sus in my opinion, okay? Scott is a sussy baka, all aboard the sus bus. Plus, it said that the pizza rolls are gonna have game tie-ins. So, unless that's like a name, that's additionally sus. Dude, it's like I'm seeing this delivery service vent all over Skeld. And at 3, therapy. Some of these comments make me really think that there should be a group fund for FNAF fan therapy sessions because, dear lord, I make a lot of jokes, okay? But like, I hope that these comments are jokes or supposed to be funny because, fingers as toppings? You want to watch the bite of 83 or 87? What the actual The comments on our first short about this delivery service, ignore me pronouncing first wrong, are very concerning if anything is supposed to be real. Okay, this is a part of why Scott kept saying that he wasn't going to make a real FNAF. And I think that this is like the best way that he could compromise to make it happen for the people who were good and wanted it, instead of, you know, the people like this. Like, why would he want to make an actual location if people keep commenting stuff like this? Seriously, I feel genuine concern for you if you're being serious about wanting to possess an animatronic. Yeah, be a fan of the series and love the series as much as you want. Don't sacrifice your life to try to make the series real. Okay, that's not a good thing. Look at all the bad things that happened in the series. Plus, possession isn't real, especially in the same way that FNAF's possession works, okay? That's entirely fictional. And besides, there is no actual FNAF restaurant or location for you to go to anyway, so please stop commenting it, at least on our videos, so I don't have to see it. Ignorance is truly bliss. Penultimately, and at number 2, no Mr. Beast. I've seen a load of comments about people saying, why would Mr. Beast do this, or making jokes like Mr. Beast is gonna do a whoever kills 5 kids first gets $1 million video, but Mr. Beast has no affiliation with Virtual Dining Concepts, which is the company making this delivery service possible, okay? Mr. Beast doesn't own it, he doesn't have any stake in it from what I know, he has nothing to do with Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Delivery. I don't want there to be any issues that come up because people think that he is affiliated with this, okay? Jimmy has nothing to do with Freddy's. He only has affiliation with Mr. Beast Burger, which was also made possible by Virtual Dining Concepts. Me introducing it like that was just that you know that it was real. The company that made Mr. Beast Burger possible also is making FNAF possible. The two aren't related, except just because the company made both happen. I don't know if that makes you disappointed or happy about it, but there is no connection to Mr. Beast whatsoever unless they end up sponsoring him for a video so that they can like get the word out even more, or so that he can make like a version of the restaurant for a video and invite FNAF tubers or FNAF fans over for a chance to win it in a similar fashion to how he invited people over to win a chocolate factory. But even if that video does happen, it will only be a sponsorship deal and not an actual partnership, okay? It's like just like when YouTubers get sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends, okay? It's just the sponsor. We don't have any stake in Raid, okay? It would only be a sponsorship deal, okay? And the location that he would make wouldn't actually be a restaurant. It would only be used for that video and then it would be dismantled. Possibly even in the same place that he built the chocolate factory, assuming that he's renting like that unit or owns it. And finally, in at number 1, delivery service. I cannot emphasize this enough, okay? I saw a lot of people commenting saying that there's a real location finally, or asking where it is, or why would they do that. It's not that kind of restaurant. It's not a restaurant, it's a delivery service. Just like how you can't actually walk into a Mr. Beast Burger, there will be no physical location for you to visit. The whole point of Virtual Dining Concepts is that existing kitchens have the ability to make these, and they can opt in, turning them into outlets for these recipes. Like when you order Mr. Beast Burger, there is no actual Mr. Beast Burger restaurant. It's something that like a Wendy's or something is like making the food either in their kitchen or in a food truck on their property, but you can't actually like go up to that food truck and order. It will be the same concept for this place, okay, but with places that already serve these kinds of food. As it says on the Virtual Dining Concepts website, quote, "Don't change who you are. We have brands that fit your current kitchen, suppliers, and way of working." So, there is, and most likely will not be, a real Freddy Fazbear's unless Scott intends to make it like a 2-week special location in the future for potential lore or whatever, okay? But there is none at the moment, and there won't be when this launches. You just order this on food delivery apps, okay? No.
Number 10, Freddy Fazbear's Pizza from FNAF 2. While FNAF 1 features the first Freddy Fazbear's Pizza that we ever saw, FNAF 2 actually features a version of the restaurant that is older than the one we saw in that first game. FNAF 2 in essence is somewhat of a prequel to the first FNAF game. FNAF 2's Freddy Fazbear location as such is bigger and likely, used to be at least, more successful than the location we see in the first game. I personally want this restaurant to be real, just so I can visit Balloon Boy and maybe try to pull a prank on him for a change. FNAF 2 also features a prize counter, and I would be interested to see what the prizes might look like in real life. And of course would definitely be interested to wind up that music box. I don't want the puppet getting out and jump scaring anyone after all. Or do I? Do I want that? Number 9, Fazbear's Fright. Fazbear's Fright is not technically a restaurant, as food and drinks are not really served there, but it is a place where you could go if it was real that once was a restaurant, or is at least an homage to a real restaurant, so I'm gonna count it. Also because, who doesn't want there to be a real Fazbear's Fright where we can all go? Fazbear's Fright is basically a haunted house style museum that was created to capitalize on the bad press and horrific mysteries that happened at Fazbear's. However, it was inspired by the restaurant, and in some stories involving the location, it even has a seemingly functional kitchen. I wish Fazbear's Fright was real because I feel like it would be the easiest way to expand on the love for this fandom without having to spend a ton of money as a company to create it. The nice thing about Fazbear's Fright is there isn't really food made here and sold for guests, so this could just act as a really cool merch shop with some awesome props on display for fans to come see and take photos with. And friends, before we move on to this next spot, if you are loving this list, be sure to hit that like button, as I'm sure there are more locations we could talk about from FNAF. I don't know about more restaurants, but definitely more places we could talk about that we wish were real. Number 8. Circus Baby's Entertainment and Rental. Being a huge sister location fan, I would need to visit Circus Baby's Entertainment and Rental were it to become an option. This would be an interesting location to bring to life, as it isn't really about the guest experience, but would more, I suppose, be a place where you could rent animatronics, if it operated like how it does in the narrative. Aside from that, I think this would just be an interesting and creepy place to work. I think if I was reflecting on any of the locations where I could potentially get hired to work there, were it real, Circus Baby's Entertainment and Rental would be high up there for me on the list. What about you? If you could work at a real FNAF location or restaurant, which would you like to work at? Number 7. Fredbear's Family Diner. This is one of the most historically meaningful locations, so of course we would want to visit it and have it be a real place. Fredbear's Family Diner is known for being the very first in the long line of restaurants opened by Henry Emily and William Afton. At least that's what we think currently. It is likely that as the lore changes and evolves, this fact too could change and evolve, because that happens a lot with FNAF. We just gotta stay flexible. And of course considering how theories change and evolve as well, which of course is how many of us form opinions about and flush out the less established lore. As such, Fredbear's is mainly a restaurant I wish were real, so we could simply visit it and get some more clues about the story behind FNAF, whether that be in the case of actually getting to go to the real life version of Fredbear's, or just visiting, a recreated replica, which is more likely because, this story isn't real. The story isn't real, sorry guys. And of course the recreated replica could perhaps have clues hidden inside it, in regards to more secret lore from the world of FNAF, which I would be here for. I just basically want like a FNAF scavenger hunt. I feel like that is a thing that I would really love. Number 6. Circus Baby's Pizza World. Circus Baby's Pizza World is another location that would be really good for addressing some of the unknown lore in this world. We also don't really get a good look at Circus Baby's Pizza World during any time in the franchise this far, so this could give creators and Steel Wool more freedom in creating that. This would also likely help it to appeal in a different way to FNAF fans, as then we could go see something that up until this point of its physical creation has mainly just been a mysterious and unknown thing in the games. Circus Baby's Pizza World is believed to have been created in the FNAF timeline after the first Freddy Fazbear's Pizza location closed. It served as a temporary rebranding of the franchise, or a sister location perhaps. Although some people have theories that Circus Baby's was actually supposed to be like a rival location, but I think it is still, even though it's not Fazbear Entertainment, it's still with that. Because, Afton Robotics, I believe, is Afton's company that made that. I'm sure it's all tied up. But also, lore and FNAF. It's confusing. Number 5. My own pizzeria? One of the coolest things about FNAF is that technically, if the restaurants from the franchise were made real, there is a chance you could get to visit your very own pizzeria. In FNAF 6 Pizzeria Simulator, we become the makers and managers of our very own Freddy's, which we can modify as we see fit and fill with animatronics, namely ones that may have snuck in via the decor you ordered from the Fazbear catalog. It would be pretty cool to go to a location where you are considered to be the owner, which is why I really want this to be a thing. Although for that to happen, either we'd have to be the ones to make the location a reality, or there would have to be a location made that has an experience sort of built in, where all visitors are made to feel like the owner and manager of the location, which actually would probably be easier, and of course, cooler in retrospect. Because, you know, I don't want to actually manage a place, I just want to feel like I manage a place. It's also why I love playing games where like I get to like run restaurants in general. Number 4, Freddy Fazbear's Pizza from FNAF 1. The first location of Freddy Fazbear's that we see is not actually the first location to have ever existed. This is the one, however, that I think many of us wish was real, as it remains to this day probably the most iconic location. This version of Freddy's is also smaller, which makes it feel like it would be more likely for us to see this one made in the real world. I just mean, you know, building the sister location, Circus Baby's Entertainment and Rental, or even the Mega Pizza Plex, that would be a larger investment, whereas the Freddy Fazbear's from FNAF 1 would cost investors less, and would also cost probably less time to like put up. This Freddy's location has a main dining area with a stage, a backstage, a security office, a kitchen, a supply closet, a few hallways, and of course, Pirate Cove, which seems to be out of order at the time in the first game. Although I think if we got a real Freddy's, I would prefer if this area was open and not out of order, because obviously I want to go to Pirate Cove. Like, come on. Number 3, the very first Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. We don't really know for certain if the Freddy's we see in FNAF 2 is the very first Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. In fact, I think it's likely that it's not the first one. We know that Fredbear's Family Diner came and went, and that Freddy Fazbear's Pizza followed it, and we know that Henry, Emily, and William Afton are no longer seemingly involved with Freddy's at that time. At least they don't evidently appear to be involved, however they could be operating behind the scenes somehow, pulling strings without, you know, anyone knowing who they really are in regards to the company. Incognito, if you will. As such, we don't know if there were other Freddy Fazbear's locations that came in between Fredbear's Family Diner and the Freddy Fazbear's Pizza that we see in FNAF 2. After all, while there is a short period of time between the establishment of those two locations, it's possible that there were multiple locations running at once, and that perhaps they were opened up one shortly after the other. Perhaps there are more FNAF restaurants that we simply don't know about, and those ones being real would be pretty cool, as they'd be completely new in regards to lore and possibly even appearance, so would allow us to see something completely new that we haven't seen yet in the games. A fun place to explore. Number 2, Chica's Party World. Other people might not hype it, and it doesn't technically exist in the lore, as far as I know, but Chica's Party World is a location that was mentioned in the source code for many of the teasers for the sister location game. It was teased that way, but never came up in sister location or anywhere else that I can think of. Still, just the idea of a restaurant where Chica is the main character sounds amazing. I mean, we all love Chica, so of course that just makes sense as a location that, you know, we wish could be real. If it does even exist in the lore somewhere, I guess, and not just, you know, in teaser source code for SL. I also like to imagine that at Chica's Party World, instead of the food focus being on pizza, it would be on Chica's fried chicken. And cupcakes. I mean, there's gotta be cupcakes, right? Number 1, Freddy Fazbear's Mega Pizza Plex. I mean, obviously, I think the number one for me, and probably for all of us, has to be the Mega Pizza Plex. It's just way too cool. And it's massive. And like Gregory, I would want to be around after close. Does that seem a little crazy considering all the awful things that we witness in Security Breach as Gregory? Probably, but I still feel like it would be really cool. If not also scary, it would be just a cool place to be stuck overnight. At the Mega Pizza Plex, there is so much to see and do and explore. Just whatever you do, don't get trapped in the Phaser Blaster laser maze for a million years like Markiplier did during his playthrough. That seems like it would be more frustrating than fun. Although oddly enough, that actually has been my personal experience with laser tag in real life in the past. When I was a kid, I always got lost in those mazes. I was like, Marshall, help, where am I? How do I get out of here?
In a tense circus baby. Let's start off with one of the deadliest animatronics in the game. Baby has an official death count of 2, the first being Elizabeth, William's daughter, and the other being Henry as we see in FNAF World. But it's not just the ability to kill that's crazy, it's the incredibly advanced technology inside the animatronic that's really impressive here. The ability to contain a whole child grabbing claw and then also a containment chamber for said kid is pretty damn impressive. But also the ability to use pins on her body to change her appearance is also pretty insane. Not to mention all of her other features like ice cream dispensing and balloon inflating at her fingertips, but all of this is again overshadowed by the absolute carnage that Baby has the ability to cause. And honestly, that's probably just the tip of the iceberg, not even including the Fazbear Frights version that can change her appearance into an actual person. Oh no, I guess that's the normal novels. Whatever. It's weird. and scary. And at 9, mini arenas. Why are the mini arenas so goddamn creepy? They're not scary per se, but they literally tear Ballora to pieces. So there's something there at the very least. The mini arenas are basically the robotic versions of those kids in your neighborhood that are always screaming or causing trouble at literally all hours of the day. And then they go to a nearby school, so you're never really rid of them and you gotta deal with them constantly. Or they run down the street when you knock at the door to see their older brother, and then their family is so damn lazy that you have to take off after him. So you end up chasing a toddler that's in nothing but a diaper down the street at 11 in the morning, catch him in front of your other friend's house, and then have the kid pulling at your hair and punching and kicking you all the way back to his house, and then people realize that you're not related. And then you don't even get a thank you for doing the parent's job. That's the moment I knew how Spider-Man felt, when the police don't thank him for fighting the dude with 4 robot arms so that they don't have to. But that's a totally fictitious scenario that would be too ridiculous to happen in real life. Look, I know his older brother watches these videos, okay? So yeah, Roshane was a piece of work. And at 8, nightmare animatronics. While not the epitome of horror, the nightmare animatronics are certainly not the nicest of fellows. Not only that, but they are in fact not real. They're an illusion, which makes them even more terrifying if you ask me. Or like, illusion is not really the proper word because they're in a dream. Anyway, not only do these creations cause horrific visions to anyone who knows about them, but they also kill a coma patient. Crying Child, as we know, is in the hospital in FNAF 4, making this game entirely just a nightmare. However, getting caught by one of these animatronics causes him so much stress that he actually dies, which is insane when you look at it like that, okay? These are so scary to him that it gives him a heart attack, or just makes his heart stop working, or something. And at 7, the Scooper. Now, I know that you may be mad and think that this is a stupid point, but hear me out, alright? The Scooper may seem like a weird but kind of normal thing, at least by FNAF standards, but with the blueprint revealing how this thing actually works, it's incredible. It's such a feat of technology. It can inject whatever it ends up scooping with Remnant without really having any injection points, and its Remnant is a molten metal possessed by souls. And then, assuming my theory about Michael being a robot is wrong, it can then, by doing so, keep a person alive after removing their insides, replacing it with robot parts, and then those robotic parts leaving that body still leaves the flesh suit viable. So in essence, it just makes that person a walking case of flesh. Unless it didn't actually remove anything and instead just opened him up and then let the innards get in. But like, he flattens down like a pancake. Dude had no bones. That's impressive, but also terrifying. That would require some serious juice. Dude's juicing. And at 6, Fetch. Fetch was introduced in the Fazbear Frights books and is a robotic dog made by Fazbear Inc. It gets a little too loving. So much so that it will actually brutally murder the girl you want to ask to homecoming. So, sorry Peter, but at least you won't have to feel bad about sending her dad to prison. Either way, a robotic dog that will kill anything you love is absolutely horrifying and should be taken care of as soon as possible, if you know what I mean. Like, this is why you spay and neuter your animals, people. But in all seriousness, could you imagine if this was a real thing? Like if you randomly started getting texts from a robotic dog that followed you home that instead of bringing you dead birds or squirrels, instead brings you the bloody arm of your crush. Yeah, that sounds like something the Winchesters would fight. Or that it would be on some other really weird CW show or some crime show or something, okay? Yeah, no thanks. Ignoring the Dean-inspired look today. Halfway through into number 5, Twisted Ones. Well, the Twisted Ones certainly do seem to live up to their name. The Twisted animatronics are these horrifically disfigured creatures that get no love from their mother like an ugly duckling. The thing is though, they don't grow into swans. Instead, they use another bit of technology that I'll get into later to disguise themselves. They also dig deep into the ground and wait until the middle of the night to crawl out and take kids who wander away from their mommies. Yeah, this legit sounds like an urban legend that parents would tell their kids to make sure that they were home before dark. I mean, I don't really know what else to say about them. Although the whole crawling into a hole and then only coming out at night thing, I wish I could do that. I don't like dirt. And at 4, human robots. This is something I'm sure that some people won't think is scary. Maybe they'll think it's scary good, but hey, the fact that there are robots that are actually able to look like humans is horrifying. Like, that is such a scary thing. In the original FNAF novel trilogy, it's revealed that Charlotte, the main protagonist of the books, is in fact one in a series of robots meant to allow her to grow up properly after being killed at an early age. But not only is she a robot, apparently she's also baby. At least that's what I remember reading about, okay? In the books, Charlotte's robot, or like the adult version of her robot, was also able to look like normal circus baby thanks to the pins on her body that I mentioned earlier. Yeah, that's the epitome of horror. Who in their right mind would think of a concept like that? And if it was real, we would all be goners, okay? This is like the fembots from Austin Powers. That's basically what this is. And then all the down bads would be trying to give it to them, and then they'd get themselves scooped. I'm surprised it didn't happen in the novels, since that one guy had his gears turning, if you know what I mean, although he wasn't actually a robot. And if you do know what I mean, can you please explain it to me? Because I'm not even, I understand what's going on at this point. My brain is all mush thinking about this circle of logic going on. I don't want to, no. Getting close to the end, and at number 3, Lonely Freddy. Lonely Freddy already, in a way, kind of has a parallel in our world. I mean, like, kinda. It's like the trope where someone becomes your friend and then becomes more like you and then tries to take over your life. Is that a thing? Is that actually a thing? I don't know. Maybe I dreamt about it ages ago and then forgot, or maybe it was like an episode of a show. I think it might have been a show. I don't know. But like, also just plain old identity theft is kind of another version of Lonely Freddy, just not as advanced. A Lonely Freddy was introduced in the Fazbear Frights books, and it's basically meant to explain what psychic friend Fredbear is, maybe, or at least that's what some people assume. But it's a robot that steals your body and then traps your consciousness into its original robot body. What the ever-loving hell? Why is that a thing? Why is that so goddamn terrifying? Especially in concept, right? But like, if it was actually real, what the absolute living would I do, okay? It's easy to say that we could just avoid them, okay, but we wouldn't know that they existed, okay? We would just be lonely kids dreaming about having friends, and then all of a sudden a robot wants to be our friend, okay? It would be vicious, and it would definitely have gotten me when I was a kid. Okay, I really wanted a friend, but especially a friend that was a robot. That would have been sick, man. But ultimately, in number 2, reality-altering discs. I mention these every chance I get because of the implications, alright? They're insane. If you don't already know, the original FNAF novel trilogy revealed that the twisted animatronics used discs that transformed how others saw them, basically creating an illusionary appearance using sound emitting from the disc that messed with your brainwaves or whatever, however they explained it in the FNAF books. However, the mere existence of these discs puts everything we know about the series into question. How do we know if anything we see is real? FNAF 1 had us hallucinate different things, like it's me, along with multiple news clippings and posters, and if one of my other theories is right, even Golden Freddy himself. So like, what if that was just the discs? And if it was, what if other things were changed by the discs as well? Like, is that really what the pizzeria looked like? Do the animatronics have more of a rotten appearance than we see in the game? I don't know, and I don't like not knowing, alright? Unless it's about the creation of the universe, in which case, that is, I don't need to like see Cthulhu and die, you know? And finally, in at number 1, the spring locks. The spring lock mechanism is probably the most intuitive thing that FNAF's world has ever invented. The ability to move robotic parts out of the way enough for a human to fit inside a costume is nuts. And while it may be dangerous, we also drive over 100 kilometers an hour in huge metal death boxes, so we can't really complain about it. And actually, you know what? Yes, we can. And while yes, cars have their faults, there is nothing compared to the ability to be both animatronic and suit, okay? That's an incredible feat of technology. Yet, it's also terrifying because of the same reasons in game. Okay, someone can dress in it and then pretend to be a robot and then clamp down on you in any second. And as it has multiple times before, okay? It can trap you. It could, if it were real, do everything we learn about from the books and the games. And it would make your life hell for fun. Especially when it can be a robot. Okay, and then the man who's once inside of it can like smile knowing that all your friends can't fight off a huge hunk of metal, you know? Like superpowers, basically. Oh, also, just saying, spring locks as they're presented in the games aren't real, okay? The real life spring locks are just locks on springs. It's like your deadbolt, but on a spring. That's basically what it is. So just don't even come at me in the comments. I know you were thinking it. Don't. Firstly, location, right? The obvious answer here is to go with the closed Chuck E. Cheese location. Chuck E. Cheese recently has closed 34 locations across the US, with locations closing in California, Colorado, Florida, Georgia, Illinois, Iowa, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, Minnesota, Missouri, Nebraska, Nevada, New Mexico, New York, North Carolina, Ohio, Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, South Carolina, South Dakota, Texas, Utah, Virginia, and Wisconsin. So any of these locations could be used as a potential first location at the very least, with some states having multiple closures. Buying one of these locations would be expensive, and online I couldn't find any real reports on how much it would be. You'd have to work that out with Chuck E. Cheese. However, to open and operate a Chuck E. Cheese location would range from $1.17 million to $1.83 million, with a franchise fee of $800,000, according to Chuck E. Cheese's section of franchisehelp.com. So assuming the higher end of the price range, this would require an investment of around $2.63 million, not taking into account that these locations are closed and they're probably just looking to break even on it and maybe not make money. But which state should we be selecting? Well, looking on Google Trends, we can actually see what states search for Five Nights at Freddy's the most. Looking for the search term Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, since that would be the name of the location, we see Virginia searching it the most over the past 12 months as of April 2021, followed by Florida, Pennsylvania, Illinois, and Texas in that order. Comparing that to our list of states, Virginia is the state with the highest search and has a close location in Fredericksburg. And I don't know about you, but the fact that it's in Fredericksburg, like Freddy, that seems like fate to me. But there is also the thought of Florida, who is the second most searched and is only slightly less searched, so it's like a close second, and has multiple Chuck E. Cheese restaurants closed, located in Miami, North Lauderdale, Miami Gardens, and Green Acres, so there is room for expansion. Florida is also a popular tourist spot thanks to the Disney park in Orlando, where I would go with my family. I think we've went 2 or 3 times. So it's probably a better idea to go with Florida's Miami location, even though Orlando and Miami aren't really that close, but it's still centralized, okay? And everything's open in Florida, so you can start work on it right away. So the Miami Chuck E. Cheese location is the first one to be bought by Scott Cawthon. What would it look like? Well, many fan creations always make it appear the same as just a normal Chuck E. Cheese, but replacing the logo and text. Probably the most famous one being the image used in MatPat's old FNAF theories. But we could take this one step further. Since the inside of the restaurant is already seen in-game, we can take that same design concept and just convert it to real life. I feel like that's pretty obvious. With the red and black squares along the wall, potentially outlined with additional decoration. You would also need to either replace or repaint the tables and booths and stuff like that, along with replacing the posters on the wall and the banners hanging above. The purple would also be changed to another color, most likely red, or maybe more of the red and black square pattern we see along the walls in the first couple games. The animatronics, if included, could easily be updated with Freddy, Chica, and Bonnie designs. Well, I mean easy in comparison to everything else that needs to be done. And once that's done, you just need to replace the songs that play out of the speakers, and then boom, you got working stage shows. I don't know if Foxy would need to have his own section, or if you'd want to add that off to the side, or if you want to use the kind of separate stage that's on some of the Chuck E. Cheese stages. I don't know, it depends on the location, if it actually has one, but other than that, that's just more construction work. Now, what makes this different than your typical kids play joint, you ask? While it does actually have the FNAF characters, not infringing on copyright because Scott would be doing this all himself, there is another aspect of the place that I think would make this even more unique and bring in more sales. FNAF is a horror franchise after all, and for some reason a whole load of these kids love being scared crapless by the many animatronics. So why shouldn't this location offer a spooky surprise for anyone willing to come after dark? Much like how Security Breach will have a day and night cycle, why not let the restaurants have the same? Where instead of closing at 9 p.m, they swap to a creepy and horror-themed joint where the kids can come to get scared while eating pizza and playing games. The lights can flicker, you have people dressed up, like a year-round haunted house. We could even get some of the games we see in Pizzeria Simulator, like Fruity Maze and Midnight Motorist, and real physical arcade machines. All you need is a TV monitor. People do it all the time on YouTube. It would actually be an incredible idea that would suck in a lot more people and increase profits late into the night. This also works for adults who are fans of the series, who may not want to deal with the children and the kid-friendly atmosphere that the location would have during the day. This time frame would feature actors in the FNAF suits, but not Springlock suits because, well, we all know how that ends. But this would be just like a Halloween haunt for our Canadian friends, or whatever Disney does. It's like Halloween Horror Nights or whatever it's called over there. People in costumes who can't touch but aim to scare, maybe jiggling some doors or hiring actors working as kids or patrons who get lured away, maybe even making a Nightmare Fredbear suit. There is so much that you can do. Oh, you can have like Foxy slowly peek out from behind it unless someone like looks or something like that. You can have him slowly peek out and then you can... Ah! Eventually, of course, you could expand, opening more Fazbear locations at the other closed Chuck E. Cheese's. And I feel like Chuck E. Cheese would be down for that too, because the resulting competition could help boost their sales as well, since there would be kids who don't want to go to a horror-themed joint at night, but have a newly ignited or rediscovered joy for pizzeria arcades and animatronic bands. And hell, even as a joke, you could open up Chica's Party World, because we all know that Scott's gonna have some form of like ARG with these locations if this is actually a thing. Scott, I have an idea for that too. Hit me up. The menu would serve pizza, obviously, but also themed meals like Chica's Chicken Wings or Bonnie's Breakfast for Dinner, since, you know, eggs. Maybe Foxy's Flapjacks. It will definitely use a little work, but I'm honestly thinking it would taste and look incredible, both the menu and the food respectively. I have a design in mind, but let's be honest, I can't show my whole hand, can I? No, I actually gotta leave some stuff to actually hopefully make this a thing. So, cause you know, if there's some mystery, Scott might actually cause we all know how he loves mystery. The menu is simple, since it's on a monitor and needs to be seen at a distance, with a red border and simple sans serif text describing the various dishes and listing prices, with images of the dishes of the 4 major characters on each of the screens: Freddy's Pizza, Chica's Chicken Wings, Bonnie's Breakfast for Dinner, and Foxy's Ultimate Nachos. I was going to do Ultimate Fries, but kids are going to find nachos more exciting than fries, even if the whole alliteration thing makes sense. And while the horror events are focused on adults, the majority of the fan base and patrons are going to be children. Hopefully not missing ones. Obviously, you can also offer alcoholic beverages like beer and perhaps margaritas for the parents of the kids during the day, and all the adults that will be coming in during the horror nights. More on that later. But other than that, it's a fairly straightforward menu. The menu has to be simple for the kids and anyone looking from a distance, and this is the kind of stuff I actually went to school for. I went over the interior design in the last part briefly, but only offered ideas instead of actually providing examples. So let's do that. Like I said last time, I think the purple sections of the wall should be replaced with red and black squares like we see in the original maps. And the white and black squares with the red outlines on the walls should go around the joint as well. We've seen the interior in the first few games, so we might as well just recreate something similar. The booths could just be repainted, or they could be separated into sections based on what animatronic is your favorite. Same with the party tables, with sections for Foxy, Bonnie, Chica, and Freddy, with posters for each characters indicating those sections, as well as banners to indicate it overhead so you can see it at a glance. The stage may come with a separate section for Foxy known as the Galaxy stage for Chuck E. Cheese, which would easily be converted into Pirate's Cove. It's already a circle, you just put up a curtain. The arcade is probably the biggest reason anyone went to Chuck E. Cheese, the second being the recycled pizza conspiracy, and the third being because of the characters. However, the kids this time around will be coming for the FNAF characters and be staying for the arcade. The arcade could be filled with the normal games we see at normal Chuck E. Cheese's: skee-ball, whack-a-mole, basketball, knock-a-clown, all the rest. However, the biggest showstoppers could be FNAF-themed versions of these games. Whack-a-mole could be Whack-a-Mini-Rena, and Knock-a-Clown, you know, the one where you like throw the balls at the clown or like you throw them at his teeth, could be Popping Balloon Boy's balloons. There could be a photo booth that puts a nightmare animatronic or Springtrap behind the people in the booth for a real scare, and you could include custom games like Fruity Maze, Midnight Motorist, and Security Puppet. There are plenty of people who've made their own arcade cabinets. Take this one from the YouTube channel I Like to Make Stuff. Bob does an incredible job. And all Scott would really need to do is code full versions of these games. Oh no, a game dev having to code new games, so difficult. Actually, not even new games, games that he's already made, just full versions. The games would be incredibly popular and would result in high revenue since they wouldn't really provide tickets, so they'd just be spending coins to play real FNAF games, but getting nothing other than that in return so your prize counter doesn't lose anything. This is how the businesses think. They could also make machines for arcade versions of the original FNAF games, maybe having buttons that flip through cameras and you need to find Foxy before he gets to you or something along those lines. The prize counter could have a real version of the FNAF puppet box there, playing its signature music to provide a reason for why it's still closed. However, this could potentially be opened at night during the horror nights. If not, the person working at the prize counter could simply be dressed like the puppet. The prize counter could offer things similar to the one from Help Wanted, and offering signature items such as stuffed baskets of exotic butters, which have already been made by Funko. They could also offer FNAF Funko Pop figures, with rarer ones being valued higher, as well as potentially Switch and console versions of the games, along with the smaller prizes that are just meant to keep people from getting the big prizes by saving up. You know, the kids will impulse buy them. That's why they're there. This could also feature recreations of things like the Lore Keeper ending certificate, which you could potentially get by presenting something given to you after beating all 3 of the FNAF 6 games. You know, the ones in the custom cabinets I mentioned. There is way more we can talk about this, trust me. Now, the horror nights are what I find the most interesting out of these new ideas, with maybe these happening once or twice a week instead of every night like I said last time, thinking logistically and knowing that most people won't want to work all the nights. 9 p.m. would be when they would normally close, so instead, how about closing for an hour while the team sets up for a special treat for all who dare to return? The restaurant could be lit with black lights, revealing blood stains on the wall along with handprints and maybe some text written in blood, or paint that shows up under a black light, and not during the day. The lights in the bathrooms could be flickering, and most of the arcade machines would be off, aside from any that make loud noises, distract well, or could scare you. Skee ball, basketball, balloon popping for example, as well as any custom ones like the FNAF 6 Lore Keeper minigames, or if any of the 8-bit minigames from FNAF 2 were recreated. Obviously, they would include jump scares at the end. The food would be limited to whatever you wanted, probably taking away the breakfast for dinner, and you could have actors walking around in nightmare-themed suits with the animatronics programmed to make sudden movements, since they need to move to keep their servos from locking up, but they can't really walk around. The music that plays could be replaced with atmospheric and scary themed music, like what we use for our videos, with periodic screams and maybe a couple faded door shakes and calls from Phone Guy, making sure that Scott Cawthon makes an appearance in the first Freddy's location. This would be the first pizzeria to do something like this, as of my knowledge, and the possibilities are endless. It would be a great first date as long as you're both into it, and it would increase profits tenfold, basically turning the place into a diet bar with horror elements, keeping the place open until 2 a.m. when you have last call at 1 or 1:30. I don't know how bars work. I turned 19 and then I didn't really go to bars, and then the whole pandemic thing happened, so I can't really go to bars now. Yeah, I don't know how bars work. So there's always been this desire from the community for a real Freddy Fazbear's, and it's been present since the first game, because for some reason they all think that it's a good idea to have a restaurant whose fictional series is built around the murder of unknowing kids to have a real world counterpart. And while I do believe that it would make an incredible amount of money, and it could be an outlet for Scott to divulge some more lore to us, there are plenty of sick people out there. So sick in fact that they might just want to recreate the games and may just take on the role of William Afton. And plenty of people have said that they're willing to die at a real Freddy Fazbear's as long as they get to contribute to making the FNAF story real. And that's honestly probably why Scott has at one point said that he didn't want to make one. But is this really the case? Has Scott just ignored the massive opportunity he has in front of him in the form of a real Freddy Fazbear's? Well, maybe not, but it's definitely not going to happen anytime soon. Let me explain. We know how dedicated Scott is to dates, both in-game and IRL, when releasing or talking about his games. He released FNAF 2 87 days after the first, like how we were all focused on the bite of 87 from the first game. Any date that he has put in the series has been solid, and even if things are changing, he always stuck to the bite of 87 and the bite of 83. Dates have always been important to Scott. And as any fan of the series that has at least tried their hand at their own timeline can tell you, FNAF 3 takes place 30 years in the future. In fact, the events of FNAF 3 take place in around 2023. And while that's quite the coincidence in-game, because like 30 years in 2023, I don't know why I think there's a coincidence. I think just maybe because they both have 3s. Anyway, the thought is that perhaps, while we may not get a real Freddy Fazbear's this year or the next, that 2023 is a possibility for when a real Freddy Fazbear's or even a real Fazbear Frights could open. I mean, if he started planning now, it would definitely take a while, right? Hell, maybe he's already started planning, but now he has to wait because of COVID, or he's just planning on opening it up in 2023. And by Fazbear Frights, I mean the location of the 3rd FNAF game, not the book series. And I mean, they are going to need a set for the upcoming FNAF movie, whenever it ends up going out, so maybe this is all just getting us prepared for a real FNAF. I mean, there was that Nicolas Cage FNAF movie ripoff that I'm sure was just a cash grab trying to capitalize on the FNAF movie hype before the actual FNAF movie came out. But could this be what Scott was planning from the beginning? Getting everyone hyped for the possibility of a real location, or what a real location would look like in his mind with the movie and the books which expand on the lore, because he was planning to open one for 2023 at the same time that Fazbear Frights would have opened in the FNAF universe. It would make sense, especially for Scott. And he's really running out of ways to give us more lore hints at this point. He's already released 3 full novels along with like 9 books that all have 3 shorter stories inside. And those, and especially the Fazbear Frights books, yeah, don't think I didn't notice the name, all had insane lore clues that helped us distinguish parts of the series that we've been previously confused about. Like how William had survived being in a blocked off room for 30 years without food or water because he was possessed by a kid. It also explains how he survived the fire from FNAF 3 and FNAF 6, and how he managed to get a hard drive in order to possess it before FNAF VR so it could get scanned into the game and then he would become basically immortal. But now we've seen source code being used as a clue, the names of photo files that we've had to access with Notepad being a clue, audio files, voice actor listings. Hell, at one point I decoded the name of a color and how it relates to the Emily family as a clue. Not to mention the countless hours of searching through all the games and then the logbook and oh my god. And yet still nobody has figured out FNAF 4. There aren't many new things he could do to bring us innovative ways for hints, unless that's what this place would be for. And he used this place as an ARG of sorts, where you can get lore clues and maybe even some answers to things like FNAF 4, or even who caused the bite of 87. So we can have a definitive answer instead of being stuck on either Mangle or Toy Chica or Golden Freddy. Hell, pull a WandaVision and base the series off a new decade each week so we can actually be there for the bite of 87 when it takes place and then gets shut down and then it reopens the next week as a new decade. And for those people saying Scott already said he wouldn't do it, first of all, people change their mind all the time, whether the reason is financial or not, and this place would be a huge success, especially after Chuck E. Cheese closed over like 30 locations. The timing couldn't be better at this point, honestly. The big problem with this is the danger, and while I'm sure Scott would have as many security measures as he could, we need to remember what the story of the games is. It's about kids dying in these restaurants, and by one of the creators of the restaurants no less. I'm sure that Scott doesn't want to end up like Henry. These issues only heighten when you look at the discussions on this. I've seen comments on our videos talking about how they'd be happy to get stuffed inside of Freddy, and how they'd just be happy to die in Freddy Fazbear's. I'm not even going to make a joke about how you would rather want to be stuffed into Toy Chica, but also the comments about how they want to kill someone in a FNAF location, or how they want someone to kill someone in a FNAF location. No. Or how they want someone to go missing and the story of the games to be real. Look, I know you guys love the game, okay? I love it too. The story is incredible and cryptic in all the best ways. But what the hell? Like comments from the last video talking about what could be in like a real FNAF. Someone had commented, bro, if this became a thing, I would want to get murdered so I can possess a suit. That would be so epic. Ah, yes. No. It wouldn't be epic because you'd be dead. Possession isn't a real thing in the real world, okay? And even if it was, we don't know how it works. It's not like if there's a real world version of FNAF, that agony will be what determines you possessing something, okay? If possession was real, it wouldn't be something that simple, and it wouldn't be something you can control. And at that point, if you want to be murdered, it's not murder. Okay? It's self-assisted murder. Because, you know, if I say the actual word, YouTube's gonna flag this video. But that wouldn't cause you agony. You'd be happy to die. It wouldn't even work in the FNAF universe sense. But it's reasons like those that will ultimately get Scott to shut down this idea. permanently. And even if they're meant as jokes, he probably wouldn't want to take the chance because, well, they may not all be jokes. And if anyone got hurt or worse because of something he opened, honestly, I don't think any of us would be able to forgive ourselves if we were the cause of that. Like if we were in Scott's shoes and we opened a Fazbear restaurant and then someone ended up getting killed because of the games and the restaurant, I wouldn't be able to handle that, I know that. Even for asking for it so much that he felt like he had to do it. So stop saying crazy shit like that. You know for a fact that you don't want to get killed at the place, even if it's what the original games do or whatever. That's not fun, it's not cool, don't say it. It won't help the situation. So if you really want a real FNAF, stop saying it so you can get killed there, okay? I can't believe that I had to say that.
And a 10 Pirate Ride. Given that this is already in the style of a game in FNAF VR, certainly does help in porting this to an arcade cabinet, but there would be some things that they'd have to change, like turning it into one of those like classic shooter arcade games where the screen scrolls as you fight off bad guys threatening innocent civilians, and it tells you what to shoot and what not to shoot. Yeah, that's the kind of arcade game I see this as, except instead of scrolling sideways, it moves forward like the cart does in the ride in FNAF VR. It could just be a simple aim and shoot kind of thing, but maybe they could add some animatronics sneaking in and throwing some cake or pizza at you that you'd have to shoot to block. This would be in order to end the game early, so that you'd then have to pay more tokens, or just straight up money depending on how the system was run, but based on modern practices I think it would be a token system because it probably would end up making them more money in the long run. And at 9, Fun with Plush Trap. Fun with Plush Trap is a simple game that would operate much like it did in FNAF 4 for the arcade cabinet. Despite having more of a presence in FNAF VR, the simplicity of the controls in FNAF 4 would be exactly how this game operates, just in an arcade cabinet, which would require you to just push a button to get the light to shine, and then you let go of it to turn it off and allow Plush Trap to move, giving you the 60-second countdown to a jump scare if you fail to stop him before the timer, or if he gets to you before you stop him. It's a simple game with a simple premise, but it would work incredibly well for an arcade machine, and I think plenty of people would play it. And maybe you could have like multiple levels like Donkey Kong style, with various smaller nightmare animatronics like Fun with Nightmare Balloon Boy, Fetch, Mini Arenas, etc. Assuming that Plush Trap isn't a form of Fetch already. And today, Plush Babies. The 2 Plush Baby mini-games where you have to look around for the various somehow animated baby plushes before they get to you is an interesting concept that with some tweaking could work for an arcade cabinet. It would require a joystick as the spotlight following the joystick, you just move it around to move the spotlight, but it's something that I think would work kinda well, but it would have to be done right. I don't know exactly what done right would look like. I'm an ideas guy, okay, I'm not a programmer, but I'm sure that it wouldn't be that difficult to work out, I hope. It wouldn't be as detailed or scary as the main minigame in FNAF VR, but it would still be something that would work decently well. It may not be the most popular game at the arcade, but that's why you have multiple levels including the hard mode one and the DLC one in the pumpkin patch. Plus, that's why it's only number 8, because it would be harder to get done properly. And it's 7, Happiest Day. The Happiest Day minigame is some of the most important lore and moments in the series, with the original missing children from the first missing children's incident from 1985 getting their souls released, showing that there are multiple ways to deal with what would later be called Remnant, the infusion of metal and soul, or rather metal and extreme emotion, or maybe in Springtrap's case, Meatle. Get it? Because his human meat is also in the suit. Never mind. Either way, the Happiest Day minigame is not a simple one-shot minigame. There's some build-up to it. It's like the main story of FNAF 3, so seeing those various minigames and glitches come together into a single arcade cabinet would be a beautiful sight. Almost as beautiful as Glamrock Chica. I mean, as my idea for a real FNAF pizzeria, which you should go totally watch, by the way. It's in one of the corners. I don't know which one anymore. And at 6, Claw Machine. This is pretty dark, but you people seem to love that kind of thing. So what about a claw machine that was designed to be Baby while she was grabbing Elizabeth? Is that too far? Like a claw machine that's built to look like the baby animatronic on the outside with a window on the stomach where the claw would come out. And that's where the claw machine is. I think that would not only be a fun way to make it a FNAF themed claw machine, but it would also be dark as hell, and I love that kind of thing. Plus, it's about a fictional death, so it's not really distasteful. The idea also stands that this is something out of the box for this list, and I wanted to see what you thought about it, rather than just ranting on about the various minigames in the series for 10 minutes. However, it's time to get back to that, so moving on. Halfway through into number 5, Corn Maze. Corn Maze is one of the most stressful games in all of FNAF VR, compared only to the likes of the hallway from that very same DLC. Corn Maze revolves around you walking through a maze made of walls, not corn. for some reason, in search of colored keys. These keys unlock their respectively colored gate and result in you winning. However, Grim Foxy is chasing you and he always knows where you are. The only way to really get him off your tail, pun intended, is to hide behind cardboard cutouts after he notices you. The maze is also filled with clusters of crows that will alert Foxy to your location if stepped on, which will result in him finding you faster, as well as scaring the living hell out of you. This game, in the same vein as the Help Wanted flat mode version but controlled with a joystick and buttons, would work incredibly well, and you wouldn't have to find all 4 keys to unlock a secret one. You just don't have a secret one and you're golden. Man, I'm a genius. In at 4, Security Puppet. Ah yes, Security Puppet. One of the 3 mini games required to play through to completion for the Lorekeeper ending of FNAF 6. And let's be honest, you should always play mini games through to completion, otherwise it's just mean. The Security Puppet minigame was pretty simple. Keep the assigned child away from the exit. However, the only catch is that there was no assigned child until the 3rd time booting up the game, where the child will already be outside, thus you failing. We know that this child is Charlie, who goes on to possess the puppet, and this was the only time we've seen a kill from 2 different angles. However, a game kind of like a Where's Waldo kind of thing with security bracelets seems like a wonderful and simple idea, especially when we know what the character is really trying to prevent. Would there be a green bracelet character, or would we only be looking for the green band? I don't know, it would be up to Scott. Also, Scott, or I guess whoever takes over next, please do this. Getting close to the end in number 3, Deliver Pizzas. The mini game that opens FNAF 6 isn't like anything else we've seen. Okay, well, it's kind of like Take Cake, but this time you're throwing pizzas at kids' screaming faces, and honestly, I love that idea. The fantasy of throwing a pizza in the screaming kid's face has been present ever since those little buggers in my old building bounced their basketball off my door and made my dog go absolutely nuts. But even without my secret thoughts, this would still be a fun arcade game, and I'm not letting you fight me on this. The difficulty of the game was already defined even before the real FNAF 6 started, and it was cool. But then throw in added difficulty of it being a full game and you have a whole new experience. At least, I think it would be at least, so can't be sure unless we try. Penultimately, in number 2, Midnight Motorist. Midnight Motorist is another one of those games that you could test in FNAF 6 that just feels right. The game is pretty simple, but it's certainly exactly what we need in an arcade cabinet at a pizzeria. A game for the short attention span of a child. You simply drive around until you run into 3 things, then boom, it's game over. You get tickets based on how far you went, or it's one of those lame ones where you don't get tickets at all because there's no feasible way to calculate that, which would also be kind of understandable. Or you just get 3. You know the ones I'm talking about. Midnight Motorist would make a good arcade game aside from the whole yellow guy mustard man debacle, so cut that part out and you're in the money, baby. Go forth and collect the king's tax of tickets and tokens. And finally, in at number 1, Fruity Maze. Fruity Maze, I think, was the obvious first choice here because while yes, the game does progressively get darker, it doesn't have to. You can stick to the original like level 1 Fruity Maze motif, add a proper goal or objective, and then have a weird FNAF version of a Pac-Man style game. Boom, you're done. Just don't make it depressing and allow the player to continue as long as they can, just like a normal Pac-Man game would work, and you're good. And you're golden. Golden Bonnie, dare I say. And maybe throw in a certain level where it's like the messed up dog, flowers, and blood kind of thing just to make sure it's authentic, because knowing these comments, you'll all be disappointed and even get mad if these things don't turn into something dark and twisted. I don't know about something like new being added to the series in the real world, but like, I don't know if you'd want that to be twisted and disturbing, like if it was a new arcade game, for example, but something like Fruity Maze, you'd insist on it. So yeah, I know you're all sick, and I love you for it.